everyone, it's me, Demetra Kaye of the Demetra Kaye Show here on YouTube and a proud contributor of the African Diaspora News channel and the African Diaspora News Insider. If you could do me a favor and please subscribe to all channels and like this video, I would greatly appreciate it. So it is day 4 of the Derek Chauvin murder trial. Again, he's on trial for murdering George Floyd, May of 2020. Where he knelt on George's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, causing his death. And you guys remember the protest of summer of 2020 took place due to the murder of George Floyd. And so it is day 4 of that trial. And so really quick, I just want to give a recap of what happened today. And I'm going to actually look for my personal notes if you guys don't mind, because so many things took place, but I also want to end with what I thought was most telling from today's trial. So day 1, all right, started off with his girlfriend by the name of Courtney Ross. She said that she became his girlfriend in August of 2017. They met at, it was a Salvation Army shelter where George was the security guard. She was going through some things with her kid's father, and they met there and exchanged numbers, and the rest was history. Now, she was questioned by the prosecution about their drug use, they being George and hers drug use, and she admitted that they had both at some point in time got addicted to opioids because of injuries. He had a neck and a back injury, and she had a neck injury. And so she said once the prescription ran out, they began to seek the opioids from the street, pretty much, like people who are selling them, who get prescription for them and they sell them, and by other means. Now, another thing that was very telling, we learned on day 3 that the witness that was actually the passenger in the car of George Floyd by the name of Maurice Hall, he was going to plead the 5th because he did not want to self-incriminate. And so most people are like, well, why? You would think he would want to testify on behalf of his friend, right? Well, Ms. Ross disclosed that Maurice was actually some sort of a dealer. She said that they had actually at some point in time gotten the illegal, if you will, non-prescription, but not a prescription to them, opioids from Maurice. And so it made sense as to why he did not want to self-incriminate, because at some point in time he was going to be asked about him giving or selling drugs that he had no business doing to people. So anyway, in case you were wondering, you didn't know, that's why I believe, now that's not official, but I believe that's why he's not going to testify, right? All right, and so another thing that came out of day 4 was paramedics. There were several paramedics and first responders that testified, and pretty much they all said they thought that George was dead when they arrived on the scene, and that in fact they had to ask Derek Chauvin to get up or basically get off of his neck, move out of the way so that they can check his pulse and try to render help. And so they thought he was already dead, and that's kind of where, you know, the prosecution is going, that he had already expired due to Chauvin kneeling on his neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Okay, and so then the police sergeant by the name of, and let me see, I have some notes, so bear with me, Supervisory Sergeant David Flagler. Okay, David Flagler, he actually, to me, gave the nail in the coffin testimony. He was asked by the prosecution, do you think, for the most part, that excessive force was used? And he said yes. And so he also went on to say here, and I'm going to read some of the questioning that went forth. It was a lot of questioning, but this was really, to me, the nail in the coffin. So he was asked, let me go here. All right, so the sergeant who reviewed officer's body-worn camera video was asked when use of force against Floyd should have ended. He replied, when Mr. Floyd was no longer offering up any resistance to the officers. They could have ended their restraint. Now, again, this is Chauvin's immediate supervisor, okay? And then it goes on to say, was that when Floyd was handcuffed and on the ground? Prosecutor Steve Schlesser, oh, I know I told his name up, but something like that, asked. Yes, Flagler said. Flagler also testified that he was told by Chauvin that Floyd became combative after struggling with him. He suffered a medical emergency and an ambulance was called. Asked whether Chauvin mentioned any use of force, Flagler said he recalled, "I don't believe so." Now, Flagler, the sergeant, also went on to say that he didn't know that a knee to George's neck was used, and he didn't know for how long until later on that night. So he, thought basically, I guess, taking Chauvin at his word, but then he said he learned of the gravity of actually what happened, and he said it started to resonate throughout the department, and he knew that the situation was a little more critical. Now, also on the body cam, you can hear Chauvin talking to Sergeant Flagler and telling him, basically, he says, I had to hold the guy down. He was going crazy. That's what the sergeant was led to believe. So, of course, from his end, he's thinking, okay, well, he did what he had to do type of thing. But to me, that illustrated that Chauvin actually lied and downplayed what he actually did to George Floyd. And again, we heard, if you were watching the trial on day 3, he was talking to Mr. McMillan, who actually happened to see all of it go down, the older gentleman, the black man, and his demeanor was very calm, like, he was resisting. He was a big guy. I think he's on something. So, it makes sense that he would downplay it to his sergeant. But then again, that's probably how Chauvin gets down, right? When he's working out there in the streets, especially in the black community. And so, again, tomorrow will be day 5. They say it's going to be a short day, and I'm going to come before you with the findings of the trial and try to highlight to me what was most telling. Now, I should also say that the defense came back and asked Sergeant Flagler, well, basically, is it usual that police officers have to be a little aggressive and I guess rough when taking down someone who may be combative? And he says, no, it's not unusual. So I don't know exactly. I guess they were trying to prove the point that Chauvin didn't do anything unusual per se that day. But the other thing before I leave here, that I think the defense was trying to do, of course, if you're watching this trial, you might be questioning, like, well, who's on trial? Is it Chauvin or is it Floyd? Because the way, and I get it, defense has to do their job, but it sounds like they're trying to place the blame on George. And the one good thing that I liked about his girlfriend and her testimony is she says that, George was very athletic and he played ball and he was always running. He would even run to the store. And so that kind of debunked their theory, because remember, the first autopsy came out that, he died due to distress and a weak heart and drugs and all of that. But she says, well, he was in great shape. Even after the times that they've done drugs a couple of times, he would go and play ball and he was very active. And so that debunked the theory that he was unhealthy and he had this weak heart and, never mind the knee to his neck, right? And so anyway, you guys, stay tuned for more coverage. I'm going to do my best to bring it before you every day. Also, for more insightful commentary, please subscribe to this channel and my channel, The Demetra Kaye Show, here on YouTube.